This is your Chargers linebacker, Dan Henley, and you're tuning in with Chargers Unleashed.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. If this is your first time tuning in the show, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube, but also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Good morning. Happy Sunday to everyone. Memorial Day weekend. Dan Wolkenstein. Is it training camp yet? Is it preseason yet? Is it the regular season kickoff yet? Good Lord. This is what we are getting together to talk about on a holiday Sunday. It feels like it's been forever since I've gotten a chance to speak with Dan on a Chargers-related podcast. Feels like it's been forever since I've gotten to speak to all of you in relation to any Chargers content that is out there, any questions, topics, anything like that. You know the rules. You guys drive the show. The questions are solely driven by you today. And Dan and I are going to try for the better part of the next hour, go through everything as far as questions leading up to upcoming OTAs next week, obviously training camp, what the biggest storylines are going to be. But Dan Wolkenstein, before we kick everything off, how are you, sir?
I am good. Happy Sunday. Happy Memorial Day weekend to everyone. Thank you to all who have served now and prior to us to help us get to where we are today. Much love. Thomas Hawley, $5 donation right off the clip, Jake. Good afternoon. Morning, my dudes. Morning, Thomas. How are you, my friend? Lots of folks in the chat already. Jake's already said it. You know what to do. Give us some comments, topics, questions, thoughts, feelings, whatever, and we'll do our best to sprinkle it through as we discuss. But Jake, before we get to this, really, really, really important question. How are you?
There it is. You know, ever since a couple months ago when Dan had forgotten to ask me how I was doing on the show and just blew right past it, I love how he kind of builds up.
It's important.
Creates
really
the
important
drama for such a simple question.
It's impactful.
See, exactly my point. Now he's using big words like impactful to describe such a trivial, simple question. Answer to the question, I'm doing great. It's Sunday. It's been a fantastic weekend. But I really need some football back in my life. We are at that period of the year where it feels like the drolls of the football times. You know, I know we got the Stanley Cup playoffs. I know we got the NBA finals. But there is just something about football season when it gets close in the summer that you're just like, somebody hit somebody and let's get back in the football mood.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? If you have not done so already, please do us a favor. Hit that like and subscribe on YouTube, X, Instagram, wherever. We're kind of everywhere at this point. Jake, we had a fun show with Daniel Popper this week.
Yes.
And he was fantastic on this one. If you have not done so, go ahead and check that one out. There is really, really, really good perspective on marriage, Advil, warm towels, and problems being solved. Whether or not you use either any of those to fix your problems, you let me know. But Daniel Popper was outstanding. Please go ahead and check that one out. Jake, it's been a minute since we've done this, and I think there's been a lot of questions and thoughts and topics on what this Chargers team is going to look like this next year, like how much it compares and contrasts to what it was last year. If they fixed everything, you know, there's a lot of questions and thoughts, but I feel like there's been so many people that have been kind of harping on the prediction of wins and if they should have more or less than last year and why. And I didn't realize it was such a hot take, but I guess it is that with a harder schedule, a Chargers team might not win as many games as the year prior. What?
Hey, regular season predictions in the month of May and essentially draft predictions, you're always going to get some hot takes for. No question about it. But that's the beauty part of getting together for conversations like this, because it's all subjective based off people's opinions of what they think. And is this Chargers team going to be stronger than it was as it looks right now? It's definitely deeper than it was a year ago. I think when you look at the standpoint of the draft classes over the last 2 years, you feel better going into that. You feel better about the weapons that are surrounding Justin Herbert. You feel a little bit better about the protection that Justin Herbert is going to have. You definitely feel better about the run game that Justin Herbert's going to have. Defensively, you would expect this core of individuals, along with Jesse Minter and everybody sticking together in year 2, that's going to be stronger. But Chargers aren't the only team to get stronger from one season to the next. So it's going to be a really interesting season. At the very least, it's damn sure going to be competitive. And I think this team under Harbaugh, year 2, and the rest of the nucleus of the coaching staff that is still remaining, I think there's great potential for this team to not only make the playoffs, but make some noise on the way there.
I agree. I'll say this, and I guess I didn't think it needed to be said, but looking at the schedule, if this Chargers team wins the same amount of times as they won last year, make no mistake about it, they are a Super Bowl contender. It's a big if, it's a big asterisk, but if they can win 11 games in 2025/2026 against this crop of competition, then they will have proven that they are a Super Bowl contender. Because I think what's important and what Chargers fans sometimes forget is it's one thing to get to the playoffs, i.e. Chargers last year, right? 11 wins, everyone's excited. We all saw some of the gaping holes, some of the issues that this team had, but to get to the playoff and get to the dance, folks feeling pretty good, right? Definite improvement from a year prior. No, making no mistake about it. There's a difference between winning a regular season game against a regular season opponent or a non-winning opponent versus beating a playoff caliber team. Who was the playoff caliber team the Chargers beat last year? We talked about this a little bit with Daniel Popper. It was the Broncos. That's it, with a rookie quarterback. Every other playoff caliber team the Chargers faced, they lost. Every single one. Now, fast forward. Chargers are going up against like 8 or 9 playoff teams this year. If you follow that same math, that same formula, that's 8 or 9 losses. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but historically, the Chargers team has beat the teams. Well, actually, that's not even true. The Chargers are competitive in the games that they're supposed to win most of them, and then lose the ones that they're going up against better teams. Last year was the first year in what felt like forever that this Chargers team did what they were supposed to do. They beat the teams they were supposed to beat, and then they were competitive in the rest. Now, unfortunately, they didn't win those, but they were competitive. Fast forward to the playoffs, got trucked. So, fast forward this year, I agree with you, Jake. The team is better. They have more weapons. The run game is better. The protection's better. They're more familiar with the staff and with the scheme. They brought in some free agents. They plugged some holes. They had more money to spend this offseason. Like, all of that. Is that enough to make up for what, in my opinion, is a much, much, much tougher schedule? And there have been people, and Jake, I was going to ask you, well, last year's teams, just because they were a playoff team last year, doesn't mean they're going to be good this year. I mean, somewhat true, but I guess that means the Chiefs are probably going to suck this year. I guess that means Steelers defense is going to take a step back. I guess that means Minnesota is not going to win 14 games, even though they had Sam Darnold throw in last year. I guess that means, the Eagles are going to suck this year. Who knows? And then, the Giants are going to be fantastic this year. Like, previous success is a pretty good determining factor of what success is going to look like this year. But I don't know. I know I ranted there for a little bit, but like, in short, this Chargers team can be better than last year, and I predict it will be, but not win as many games, but still be a success. And that's okay. 10 wins, which I predicted, 10 wins this season versus 11 wins last season is so much more impressive to me. What say you?
We've talked about it a number of times since that Houston loss in the playoffs. We're just now waiting to see, like, okay, how do you get to the playoffs next year? Personally, I don't give a shit what the record is. If it means that the Chargers are going to the playoffs next year, fine. Give it to me.
100%. 100%.
I don't care what it is. I'm old enough to remember the days of Seattle, the Rams, and Arizona when, what was it, all three out of the four of those teams like were in playoff contention with 7-9 records. Now, obviously, that's not going to be as what it's going to be for the AFC West, and especially how stacked it is with the coaches and the teams that have been built there. But at the same time, Dan, you guys were talking about this with Popper. Those last 5 games of this schedule are a beast. 3 out of the 5 against playoff contention teams, one of whom won the Super Bowl last year. 3 of them are on the road. That's nasty. That is a nasty finish to an already tough schedule. And you had mentioned it previously as far as historically what the Chargers do. There's always one game that they drop that you're sure that they should have won. Look at the Arizona Cardinal game last year.
Say that, yep.
I made the prediction not based on anything else but that logic that the Chargers were going to drop one of those games that's going to surprise everybody. And I just so happened to throw a dart out there, and I made it as the Jacksonville game. Now, not necessarily saying that that's what's going to happen, if there's any logic based on that, but that's always what happens with the Chargers, is there's always one game of the season, no matter what year it is, no matter who the head coach is, that you go into that game, you're expected to win, and somehow everybody has an off day. And I'm just predicting that that's going to be the one for the Chargers this year. But still, I have them with a pretty promising record, as does Dan. And we both have them making the playoffs, even with a tougher schedule. And I do think that this second year under Harbaugh and this coaching staff and with this improved roster from bottom to top is going to be able to make some noise and is finally going to be able to execute this new offensive scheme that I think that you saw flashes of last year, but definitely not anywhere near the consistency from the running game, from the passing game to the offensive line protection. The defense, to their credit, kept them in a lot of games, but yes, it was against a much weaker schedule than this. So everybody's going to have to elevate in order for them to make the playoffs this year.
Forgotten locale. We were all pounding the table for Houston, only for them to get completely smacked around. Case in point.
There it is.
Now, I learned my lesson last year, or over the last several years. Hope and optimism will only take you so far.
Yep.
And I have tried my best since being burned far too many times to tether my hope and optimism to reality and not let it get skewed far one way or the other. Now, it feels like those 13-4, 12-5, 17-0 predictions. A lot of hopium. That's a lot of optimism. But in what reality is that tied to? When is the last time this Chargers team has beaten multiple playoff teams in a single season? Probably 20, was it 20? What was Derwin's rookie year? What year was that? 2020?
2018? 2017? Excuse me.
When they beat the Ravens in the playoffs. That's
Yes.
also going to be the Steelers. That's probably the last time I can recall. And we're coming up on 7 years from now. Like that's a long time. So we could be hopeful that this Chargers team has improved. We could be hopeful that the run game is fixed, that the pass protection is better, the team will be healthy, that some of these teams will take a step back. The Eagles aren't going to be as good as last year. You know, Dak Prescott's going to be a step back. Bo Nix isn't who we thought he looked like last year. The Commanders are going to take a step back. The Chiefs are going to take it. Like, we can hope. But what does history and what does reality tell you? People say, oh, who's the Steelers quarterback? Who's the Steelers quarterback been for the last decade? And somehow they always, you saw it on the Minecraft, they're always 9-8. Their defense always wins. Mike Tomlin is a great coach. So tether your reality and your hope and optimism together. And so, because I think what started this for me, Jake, was I saw so many people were so upset about Daniel Popper's 9-8 prediction. Which, like, I mean, you could be upset about it. But if we're being honest, and this might hurt some feelings, if the Chargers go 9-8 against this schedule, they will be a much better team than they have been in years past. Period. Because look at this schedule and show me 9 wins.
Well, we're doing it here, obviously, with you having our predictions up.
We have 10. Well, we have 10. But even the 10 wins that we have, you're beating some teams that, like, historically you have not beaten before. On my side, for example, I've got wins against the Texans, who you just got blown out by in the playoffs. I've got wins against the Cowboys, who are going to have Dak Prescott back. I've got wins against the Steelers, and you've lost to the Steelers so many times in so many laughable fashions. I've got them beating the Vikings, who were just the highest win total for a wildcard team in who knows how long. I've got them beating the Broncos, who were just in the playoffs, who got better, who had arguably the best draft in the NFL. That's included in my wins. So, like, let's temper our expectations here. The Chargers team could be much better than last year, but have a worse record. Like, those two things can coexist.
We'll admit it does sound backwards, though.
It
still sounds backwards. There is some strange nuance to that statement, for sure.
Matthew Dahl says, did you guys see Chris Rim's bold prediction on ESPN last week? I did not. What, did you see it?
I didn't actually see what his record prediction was, but I believe that he did not actually have them making the playoffs. So
and again,
if someone's in here on the chat and can
please confirm,
give us the skinny on that, that'd be great.
And I think, like, and this is again, like, I might get flamed for this, but how bold would that be? Right? Like, that would be tethered to reality of what we've seen for years when this Chargers team goes up against quality opponents. I think, in my eyes, the more bold prediction is that the Chargers team beats those teams. It's more bold to me that this Chargers team goes 12-5 against this schedule than 9-8. By far. I don't know. Let's get some of these comments, Jake. Athir says 9-8 record. I think that means from Chris Rim. Jorge says, who will the quarterback be for the Steelers? We saw the Steelers beat the Chargers. What was it? Mike Vick at one point. We saw Nathan Rudolph.
Justin Fields had no problem doing it last year.
It doesn't matter. Like, literally, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If McCarthy can play at least above average, Minnesota's going to be lethal. Minnesota won how many games with Sam Darnold? They got Kevin O'Connell, man. Like that. Watch Sam Darnold this year. I can't wait to see this year.
Minnesota's got weapons, and that's going to elevate J.J. McCarthy for sure. I don't care if it's going to be his pseudo rookie season or not. That's going to be a damn good offense.
Yep. Forgotten locale. Houston is a team to take a step back. I think the Jags are the one possibly good enough team to win the South.
If their offensive line is not able to hold, they could have some issues. But in terms of, you just look at weapons that Houston reloaded with by getting both Iowa State wide receivers in Higgins and Knoll to pair with Nico Collins. CJ Stroud should be set up for big time success with that. If that offensive line holds, that is what's going to be the X factor for them moving forward.
Athir with a $5 donation. Thank you so much, Athir. Hope all is well, baby. Dan and Jake, first, the schedule is tough. It's an excuse. We are talking about last year's team. I am not afraid. 13-4 is my record. However, my team is ready. 13-4. Like, it could happen. Are the chances higher that they go 13-4 or 9-8? You tell me. Folks in the chat, you tell me. I didn't ask this question before, Jake. What's everybody drinking? Take a pause for a second. I've got latte. I got some new beans yesterday. My hands are still
I'm
sore.
surprised by your
I
selection.
was gonna say my hands are still sore from freaking laying hardwood and baseboards.
Are you done yet? By the way,
everything except the bathroom. I'm done with everything. I've laid the floor, the foundation, I did the ceiling, the caulking, just the freaking bathroom. So I got a toilet.
I told Dan Wolkenstein when he was embarking on this little housing endeavor of his that he's basically essentially redone his entire house in flooring. I've done it previously just for one room, and it was one of the worst experiences that I had ever done. And so far, I think Dan Wolkenstein is experiencing that in real time. It's not fun.
I would agree. My hands hurt. Like part of my body that I haven't hurt ever. Like I'm hurting. I've blown up my finger. I've still got a blood blister under my nail. Like it's just a wreck over here.
It's fun, isn't it?
But it is kind of therapeutic though. Like not gonna lie.
I would not call it that.
No, like
I would say it wants to drive me into therapy. That's how I would consider it.
Yeah, probably. That's a good point. Yeah, so I got a latte. Jake, what you drinking?
Usual Rockstar Recovery.
What are you recovering from?
I don't know, actually. All I know is that it tastes good. I don't have a hangover, so happy for me.
Okay.
But yeah, hydration.
Kyle, coffee and water. I actually had to put some water in my. This is gonna sound. I'm not even gonna say it. Never mind. Pineapple mint pressed juice from Kyle Goodwin. Heck yeah! Dang. Saratoga spring water. I don't even know what that is, but shout out to Saratoga. Nicholas Petrelli, $2 donation. Thank you so much. We didn't hire Jim to beat teams we should.
Yes.
Agreed. Again, like that's what we're hoping, right? We're hoping that in Jim we trust, in Joe we trust. Whatever Jim does turns into gold. Right? But what is the it's two realities clashing. It's Chargers' reality over the last 40, 50 years and Jim's reality. Which one's going to win? Like, Chargers fans could argue anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Will be the exception to Jim's rule. Like, that could be the thought process. But who knows? Who knows? All right, let's get some of these questions, Jake. There's a bunch. I'm way behind on these. So let's start with the last one I found. Shadoka. I'm not going to say the name because I made my name wrong and someone's going to flame me. Thoughts on Rocket Sanders, his role and playing time?
There's another question. There was another question here just talking about the running back group in general because Joe Ortiz was talking big on Rocket Sanders and essentially like who was going to be the odd man out. Dan and I have posed this question previously. You look at that running back stable now with Omarion Hampton, Najee Harris, Kamani Vidal. You add Rocket Sanders into this mix. Oh, Janoris Jenkins. Or excuse me, no, who am I?
Hassan Haskins.
Hassan Haskins. I have no idea why the hell I just said Janoris Jenkins.
Jenkins. Well
Jesus. Maybe I do have a hangover. Hassan Haskins. You know you're in deep shit when you say Janoris Jenkins and mean Hassan Haskins. Essentially, back to the topic. Who the hell is going to be the odd man out of this running back stable? This is tough, Dan. The comments that Joe Ortiz made about Rocket Sanders, essentially as far as when it was like the early parts of, even just this last, rookie minicamp, call it. They said that they've already seen so much tape on him that essentially as far as him coming in, being prepared, showing up, it wasn't a big expectation because they knew what they saw from him.
He's a draftable player.
They hold him in such high regards.
Compared to the other UDFAs.
Yes. So you look at that now. Now, Haskins is giving you a little bit as it relates to the special teams ability. So you know that there's going to be value in that circumstance. Dan still has J.K. Dobbins up on the screen, which technically still is true up until a certain deadline, until we actually know what's going to be his future. Is he going to remain with the Chargers? Is there going to be a trade for him to some other team?
Will another team end up paying more?
Don't know. But Dan, you look at this room from 1 year to the last, and you just feel like this is so much improved just from a style standpoint, from a durability standpoint, from a versatility standpoint. This to me is the Greg Roman 2.0 that he wanted since he set foot in the organization last year. Now, execution and game plan are obviously two big differences. But you look at this room right now on paper. If it's me, I'm saying, and this is all depending obviously on what happens with J.K. Dobbins. I would love to see him back in a Chargers uniform. But I feel like Haskins would be the odd man out in this circumstance. I definitely see the Chargers keeping 4 running backs. Definitely. And if it's these 4 that Dan has up on the screen, I feel damn good about that.
And again, like, I don't necessarily know if it matters who the 4th is, right? Like, that's probably more of a special teams consideration, probably. But, unless injuries happen, which they do. But Najee Harris and Omar Hampton as your 1-2 punch. And let's just say it's Rocket Sanders as your RB3. You mentioned, like, stylistically. Stylistically, this is Jim Harbaugh football. Like, this is what they envision when they pound teams into submission. When you've seen them do this to teams. And Daniel Popper brought up an incredible point. J.K. Dobbin, kind of caught lightning in a bottle last year, right? Still injured on a big stretch. Didn't quite hit 1,000 yards, but comparatively speaking, J.K. Dobbins had a pretty darn good year, right? But lost in that were so many runs that went for 0 or negative yards. Essentially wasted plays. Look at the running back archetype that they brought in, along with Mekhi Becton. And tell me if that's what they're trying to fix or not. People talk about, I said this earlier, people talk about Najee Harris. Oh, he only has a 3.9 yards per carry average. Expand that out. Dude got 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. You'll take 3.9 yards per carry. What you won't take is 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, -3, 0, 4, 27, right? I'm being a little bit facetious here, but consistency. Go forward. Get the 1 yard. Like, that's what this Chargers team is looking for, is to be able to depend on the running game to do what it's supposed to do. And so often last year, they would look for that 3 yards, the 2 yards, and they just couldn't get it. Now, blame the running backs, blame Trey Pipkins, blame Zion Johnson, whatever. Net, they brought running backs where even if the offensive line isn't necessarily getting them gaping holes, you take 240-pound Najee Harris, 220 Omarion Hampton, Rocket Sanders, bowling ball, like, they'll get the 2 yards. They'll just push tushes on the way to get there in a different way.
I think the biggest thing that this unit is definitely going to improve, Dan, is if the Chargers are going to be looking to run the ball on first downs, I think you're going to see a much more improved output on that. And it's going to eliminate the 2nd and longs, the 3rd and long situations to where the defense can then go after Justin Herbert. This unit collectively, I don't care who it is going to improve that on your first down situations.
And again, I go back to that, like, being able to be depended on to do your job, right? Like, you look at last year, I think the people that were dependent on and did their job on offense you could probably count on one hand. You can say Joe Alt, Sean Slater, Ladd McConkey, Justin Herbert. That's 4. Who else? Maybe Will Dissly? Maybe? His job was blocking tight end, and then had to go into doing something else.
If that's where his job stays, then yes, you can make that.
Well, he had to do overtime and be a pass catcher, but I think what he was intended to do when he was brought in, he did that. Now
he's done his job.
Yeah. Now the extracurricular stuff, he tried his best.
Hence the moves for Oronde Gadsden and Tyler Conklin.
So,
or as I sometimes call him, Janoris Jenkins.
Cordell Patterson.
What the hell is in this head this morning? I don't know.
Yeah, Forgotten Locale brings up a good point. Scott Matlock at times, sure.
I think they're going to keep Matlock strictly on the offense this year. I don't think that he's going to be doing double duty this year again. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One, first of all, it's impressive that he had the stamina to do so for a guy that size. But 2, I think you're going to want, with so many new bodies now along that defensive line, especially after losing Puna Ford, you go out and make 2 free agent acquisitions. There's big expectations for Tyler Tart to step up. You have Tito, who's in a contract year coming up. There's big expectations that we've heard from individuals and coaching staff about Justin Eboigbe, who essentially had a redshirt year last year. You go out and you draft Jamari Caldwell. Already, that defensive line. You're not going to keep much else, but I think as far as Scott Matlock's role, I think he's going to remain the biggest fullback in the league, and on offense is where he's going to stay. Do I think that they could sprinkle him in emergency situations if need be on defense? Yeah, but I think that he's strictly going to be an offensive player with the rest of the bodies that they got in that locker room.
David Drogemeyer, friend of the show, friend of us both from Locked On Chargers. Get it, fellas. Hit him straight, David.
Drogemeyer, who has also been improving his golf game as of late. Almost every other post I see from David, he's out on the links.
As he should be.
Swinging the wrenches.
Hell yeah. You bet. I'm telling you right now, I'm hoping to play with him when he comes down to San Diego next. And he's going to make me look like a fool. I haven't swung a golf club in a minute.
If anything, I could tell David, even for him still being new to the golf game, if he wants to feel some self-confidence about himself, play me. Play me.
Just don't be anywhere within 45 degrees.
Or give me the opportunity to drive a golf cart. So if you want a good laugh for 18 holes, I can give that to you. Good competitiveness on the golf course? Hell no.
Now, again, this isn't, I don't mean this to throw shade or slight other players last year, but who on offense, weapons for Justin Herbert, were dependable?
Well, there's only one in this image.
Was he dependable?
Yes.
No, there were two. There were two. There was Ladd and one other guy. Was he dependable?
No. That's why I'm only singling out one person in this image. Now, if you did a side-by-side comparison to show what the Chargers' weapons were for Justin Herbert last year compared to this image that you currently have up on the screen, holy shit, you feel a lot better about your offense. Even though you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys that essentially are coming into this offense for the first time, you still look at this makeup and you feel good about what Justin Herbert has around him.
Yeah, so we think forward, right? Now a lot of this is projection, but who on this screen do we feel confident that we could depend on? Again, we're not doing hopium, right? We're not just going to sit there in the clouds, think everyone's going to be incredible, and all of a sudden, this team's going to be number one offense in the NFL. But realistically.
Now in this image, you could say moving forward, you could say 2 right now. The rest we just haven't seen, or ones in particular not be dependable.
And I would say more than 2. I would say more.
Well, I would say Mike Williams and Ladd McConkey, just from the standpoint of familiarity with
2.
Justin Herbert.
Sure.
Quentin Johnston, we know, is not an X receiver. They tried that last year. Didn't work. Quinn's going to be relied strictly as a Z receiver, do what they do best for him, get him out in open space on crossing routes, and that's going to be his role. But the rest of the individuals, they're coming into this roster brand new. And I'm not saying that they're not going to be able to be dependable or reliable, because I definitely think, especially when you're looking at the running backs of this group, I think that that's going to work. But if you're saying like right off the bat right now,
who is who we like? Who? I'm trying to think of a good way to put this. Who has proven that they are dependable in what you are looking for?
That's different. Yeah. Then Najee Harris comes into there.
Tyler Conklin comes into there. Omarion Hampton would come into that fold. Now, again, like as a rookie, it's hard, right? As a rookie, it's hard. So but you feel pretty darn good that that's going to translate. So, like in this image, I probably would go Mike Williams, 1. Again, like taking injuries out of it, right? Just solely on everyone healthy. Mike Williams, Ladd McConkey, Najee Harris, Tyler Conklin. That's 4. I'm putting Omarion Hampton there. Like, I think he's that good, honestly. And
Daniel Popper said that by week 3, Omarion Hampton would be a fan favorite, and there would be a wave of number 8 jerseys in the crowd.
And then you look at Oronde Gadsden and Trey Harris. If we're taking injuries out of it, right? Oronde Gadsden's freaking setting records, and Trey Harris was leading all of college football until he got hurt. So that's between 4 and 6 dudes, not counting Rashawn Slater, not counting Mekhi Becton, not counting Joe Alt, not counting Justin Herbert, not counting Will Dissly. Like, that's what this team is looking for. What can we bring into this roster that can be depended on? That's not a variable.
Again, I go back to my original statement when you brought this image up, Dan. If you were to compare this point last year to what Justin Herbert had from an offensive standpoint last year, again, that was Ladd McConkey's rookie year. Even after the draft, with all the wide receivers that the Chargers picked up, they still were looked at as the worst wide receiver core in the NFL. Take that roster and put it next to this image that you got on the board. And we were just talking about, as a rookie, it's tough to come in and make an immediate impact. But in this image alone, you have 4. And you still feel better about this image compared to last year.
You know, it's sad. And I almost don't want to admit this, but I'm literally going to Pro Football Reference to find who the hell the Chargers wide receiving core was last year. Do you remember off the top of your head?
Josh Palmer, Ladd McConkey, DJ Chark, allegedly, Quentin Johnston, Brandon Rice. Up until the season started, Cornelius Johnson, Darius Davis, who is Darius Davis, Jalen Reagor. I see it in the comments. He was essentially there for that Arizona game and then wasn't really heard of ever again.
Simi Fehoko. Shout out
Simi
to the
Fehoko.
Elevators.
Yes. That was your wide receiver core. That wasn't even including the tight ends.
Hayden Hurst, apparently. Tucker
Like
Fisk.
I said, immediately, well, Tucker Fisk is still on the team, but yes, immediately you already feel better about this new crop, even though that it has 4 rookies into it, than last year.
Stone Smart.
Wild what a year can do under a much better organization that knows how to draft properly.
Eric Tomlinson. I mean, like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here, but contrasting last year's weapons and firepower to this year is like not even in the same stratosphere. And saying it out loud like that, like, what?
Yeah. And only one of those guys that was on that roster last year could beat man coverage consistently.
Laviska Chenault, don't forget about that. Lausa Bruin, good call. Good call. Takes 420. I don't know if I would count DJ Shark. That's what I mean. Like, this was like when they brought DJ Chark in, because again, they didn't have much money to spend, so like they did what they could, right? You're like, oh shit. He had what, like 5 catches the entire season? And that might be too many. How many did he have? 4.
All of them came like in that last week of the season, too.
4 for 31 yards. So, in that regard, right? Like, that's in the ledger of I could see why Chargers fans are bullish this year. Like, that makes up for some of the fake schedule stuff. Like, I get it.
Yeah, you think to yourself, like, there's no way they can be any worse, right? There's no way they can be any worse. And no, I don't think that they will be any worse.
Don't say that to Chargers fans. But, like, this year, you look at the wide receiving core. Again, aside from Ladd, that's all they had last year. You add Trey Harris, you add Mike Williams, you add KLS. You still got Darius Davis, who I think they would like to see get more involved. You still got Quentin, who had a better year last year. Like, he improved. Now, he had to start so low, but like, he still improved. Is he as good as people hoped he should be as now coming into his 3rd year? No, but maybe he will be. You don't know. Let's go with the hopium, right? You can't have both sides of it. You can't say they're going to go 13-4, but also Quentin Johnson sucks. That's not how it works. Quentin Johnson's going for a Pro Bowl season this year. Is he? I hope. So, yeah, I mean, you look at this wide receiving core, and there's guys not even shown here. You've got UDFAs. There's still Jalen Reagor. Brendan Rice. You still got dudes here. You feel better about this.
Oh, was that a question? I thought you were just ending your statement.
I was just transitioning it over to you to take it over, and you did
Got
a
it.
wonderful job.
Totally missed the mark there. Couldn't really add much to what Dan said, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, you feel good about this.
Now, I guess one question I wanted to ask folks in the chat, and we'll get to this now, I think. This is probably the thing that I feel like has people most, I don't know if concerned is the right word, but you look at the offensive line, right? And everyone knows the weakness of this Chargers team, among the many, was the interior. And this isn't necessarily who is going to be the starting 5 on the screen. Joe Alt, Mekhi Becton, Andre James, Zion Johnson, Rashawn Slater, right? You know, Trey Pipkins would like a word. Bradley Bozeman would like a word. Jamar Sawyer would like a word. Like, there's other guys in flux here, but I feel like Andre James is just being slept on. I know he wasn't paid a ton. Neither was J.K. Dobbins last year. Neither was Christian Fulton. Do you, on a scale of like 1 to 10, 10 being like, this is the best offensive line you can have, 1 being like, we're absolutely going to get shredded. Like, where do you stand on the offensive line? Like, how would you rank it right now? Like 1 to 10. 10 being amazing, 1 being terrible. In totality.
Starting 5 that Dan has on the screen is how I believe that by the time that we get to week 1, this is going to be your starting 5. I know that Zion Johnson, Bradley Bozeman are getting early work right now as it relates to Zion Johnson possibly transitioning to being a full-time center. Bradley Bozeman working back in there in the starting. Again, it's May. It's May. If I was to hitch my wagon against some of the defensive fronts that the Chargers are going to be facing this year, no disrespect to Zion Johnson in terms of a position change, but I wouldn't be putting him at center. Unless there is a gargantuan jump and improvement to go from left guard to a position that he's never played before. and not saying that he can't do it, because this coaching staff really believes that he can do it. Joe Ortiz has talked about it multiple times that they believe that he can do it. And this may be me going against the grain of what Dan and I have said. When the Chargers actually speak nowadays, and I'm talking about Harbaugh and Ortiz, they're very transparent in terms of what they're going to be doing. And right now they're showing us that they're going to give every opportunity possible to Zion Johnson starting at center. Now, whether or not that plays itself out over the course of the next few months, time will tell. But if it's me, I still am banking on Andre James winning out that starting spot. And Mekhi Becton solidifying that right guard spot next to Joe Alt. Maybe you might actually be able to run to the right side for a change rather than going to Rashawn Slater and Zion Johnson's side of the ball. Wouldn't that be nice? So it's hard for me to really put a definitive grade 1 to 10 because we still don't know necessarily what this starting five is going to be.
Okay, so let's do, people in the chat are doing a really good job with this. Let's do floor and ceiling in totality with who they have. Worst. What's the worst it could be? Floor.
Worst it could be? Worst it could be is, I'll put it at a 5.
Okay. Ceiling. Everyone balls out.
Depending on who you're talking about, I'll say 7.5 or an 8.
So the best they could do is an 8.
Because I think Mekhi Becton, if he is able to replicate what he did for the Eagles last year, you already right now feel better about that right guard spot with him coming in at this point. So that carries a lot. I think your depth from an offensive line perspective is better. Who's going to win the starting job? We have no idea at this point. But yeah, if everybody is able to elevate their game, and if you're essentially telling me that you have shored up the center and the right guard position specifically, you should be having much more consistent success.
Mm-hmm.
So floor 5, ceiling 7.5 to an 8.
We talked a lot about the offense, Jake. Rightly so, right? I think there's been a lot of change on offense. Look at the defensive side. Miraculously, they kept Jesse Minter, which I think is not being talked about enough, how important that was. Him and Steve Clinkscale both staying. Which, again, in my opinion, Clinkscale is the next DC. I talked to Popper about this a little bit, about what it appeared like the goal was with this roster on defense this year. Is it to essentially try to replicate what they had last year or try to build and improve upon what they had? You lost Joey Bosa. You lost Poona Ford. You lost Christian Fulton. Currently, Asante Samuel Jr. not there. You bring in Jamar Caldwell, Kyle Kennard, a couple corners, a couple DBs, I should say. You bring in like 4 corners if we're talking about free agency as well. Junior Colson coming back off of the injury-riddled season. What's next for Thule? Are we going to see an all-pro season from Deion Henley? We bring back Elijah Molden.
You have to add Junior Colson to that mix. Because as improved as the linebacking core played last year with Perriman and Henley, you didn't even have your 3rd-round pick from a year ago out there playing. So it was kind of like the same path that Deion Henley took during his rookie season. He didn't really get to play much his first year. And look what he does last year. You add Junior Colson to that mix, someone who knows that defense more than anybody, is not going to have a learning curve coming into it. And the biggest thing for him as it relates to is health, which plagued him throughout all of preseason and obviously did not play much during the entirety of the regular season last year. But that's another element that you add into there, Dan.
Mac 88. K-Dot has been in SoFi all week. We gonna be all right. Did I do that right? Catherine says their defensive isn't going to be as productive. And I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily. The only reason I would say I agree with that is because of who they're going up against. Maybe, right? They're going up against much better teams, and
You're
Navarro
going to be
Bowman talked
putting
about it. Coaching staff said, like, specifically, they need to be better against elite teams, elite quarterbacks. Excuse me.
feel better depth-wise, though. That's one thing you
100%.
surely feel better about.
Yep.
We've all talked about for the last few years as your main edge rusher pairing of Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. And everything was always weighing on, well, if Joey Bosa can stay healthy. That factor is no longer here anymore.
Yep.
Now it is Tooley going to take that next step? And yes, in the first 2 years of his career have already been impressive, but what's that going to look like now with him as the full-time starter? I definitely think he can do it. I'm not downplaying that whatsoever. But that is a huge question mark going into this next season. Say what you will about Joey Bosa when he was healthy. He could set the edge better than most edge players in the league as it relates to against the run.
But when did he actually do that? Like, how often did it actually happen?
It was very few. So is Tooley going to be able to be that bookend for Khalil Mack this season? I love the Kyle Kennard pick. I think inserting him into this defense with these players around him, specifically for what he made his mark on for South Carolina, if you just say, hey, it's 3rd and long, go get the quarterback, it's essentially what you did in Tooley's rookie year. Give that job now to Kyle Kennard. I think that's a fantastic spot for him. So this edge room has some questions. This interior, this defensive line that you've essentially done patchwork post Poona Ford with 1-year free agent contracts for 3 players individually. You have redshirt season for Justin Eboigbe last year that you're expecting to come in to have a much bigger role this year. You have a rookie in Jamari Caldwell who you hope is going to improve your play both against the run, especially against the interior pass, because you know he can do that well. And then your secondary, Dan. Crazy to think where you were a year ago when your initial outside starting corners were going to be Asante Samuel Jr. and Christian Fulton, and it's now essentially in the hands of Tyler Tart, or excuse me, God, here I go again. Cam Hart and Tarheeb Still. That's wild. I mean, you bring in 2 other free agent cornerbacks to mix in with that depth. You still have Dean Leonard in there. I really like Nico Reed. I think along with Rocket Sanders, he's got the next best shot in terms of the UDFAs to make this roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, St. Juice, Dante Jackson. Now you got Triquez Bridges in there. RJ Mickens was brought in safety. Like it's a. I was burned once, quote unquote, by being concerned about the cornerback room last year. While I still hold on to, like, they don't have that, like, tier 1 lockdown corner. I think maybe Cam Hart will be that. Maybe Tarheeb Still will be that. But, like, is that a little too much hopium out of two-year, second-year players? I don't know.
Do you feel better about the secondary unit this year?
Yes.
As opposed to last year?
Yes. And it's not because of the secondary players. It's because of the proven coaching. Like, all right, I get it. Catherine says, teams had a season to watch Minter scheme will adapt. Bullshit. Mike McDonald's been doing this for how long? Go look at the Ravens. Go look at Mike McDonald's scheme. Jesse Minter's been #1 defense in college and NFL. They've had plenty of tape to watch Jesse Minter's scheme. Mike McDonald's scheme, right? Like, Jesse Minter will also adapt. Like, that's what makes him such a great defensive coordinator. He adapts to the players he has.
I think that's I think this is a little bit of PTSD because we were once under a previous coaching regime that adapt was essentially torn out of his dictionary and didn't know what that was.
Minter did say, says TD, that he would like to have a real man corner, which kind of suggests we don't have one now. I mean, you do. Do you have, like, the bona fide CB1 real man corner? I don't know. It's actually a Vic Fangio scheme. Yeah, people are gonna adapt. They got film on Vic Fangio for 20 years. I just don't like. That's what makes this coaching staff so good. Let's see. Alex says Kyle Kennard will be this year still where he has a 5-round. Wait, Kyle Kennard will be this year still where he a 5-round picks that break out. He's a 5th-round pick that breaks out. I don't know.
It's a 4th-round pick. But does he break it? Does he break out? I think that's where the question's going here. Hey, look, I think Kyle Kennard did add a lot of juice to this team in general.
Yeah.
Breakout season? Potentially. If he's strictly relegated to those 3rd down duties before he can make some noise, sure. Again, I love the Kyle Kennard pick. I was so hyped about that. That is potentially your future moving forward with Tooley and Kyle Kennard. But I love that spot for him for his rookie season to come in and essentially play behind Mack and Tooley, be relegated to a speed rusher responsibility, and just say, go get after the quarterback. I think he's going to be able to thrive in that role.
Catherine says there will be some teams that still run all over the Chargers as they give up 4.7 yards per carry, which was one of the worst. Now, again, this is one of the things that this Chargers team focused on the most this offseason. And Daniel Popper talked about this too. Like, they brought Arby's to the Chargers, right? Like, you ask, where's the beef? Like, it's here now. Like, look at the Chargers' interior defensive line and the size that they brought to this Chargers team. With Naquan Jones, Deshaun Hand, Jamar Caldwell's pushing 330. Like, they know their run game's an issue. And again, that's also something that I kind of realized this offseason, the type of defensive lineman that like maybe I would lean towards in my theoretical defensive scheme versus what this Chargers team and Jesse Minter would lean towards. Like, they want Arby's, man. Like, they want Arby's on the defensive line.
I told Dan when we were at the draft party watching the first round, and you watch Ashton Genty going to the Las Vegas Raiders, and you say to yourself, that's going to suck going up against him twice a year. One of my personal favorites in this running back class, RJ Harvey, goes to the Denver Broncos. It's going to suck going up against him twice a year. But then when the Chargers select Omarion Hampton at 22, you think, they have to go up against him twice a year. Yeah. The Chargers are going to be able to fight fire with fire in a lot of these different scenarios. So, yes to that question, as far as some elements of that being true, because the loss of Poona Ford in terms of the run game is definitely big for the Chargers. And I think they're going to try to replace that by a committee from the players that you just named, Dan. And we'll see how that all shakes out. But also, the Chargers are going to be able to dish it out on the ground this year when they weren't able to consistently last year.
Pablo Hernandez. Sup, Jake and Dan? Let's go. Pablo looks like he's on the golf course, I think. Does that look like a golf course to you? Or freshly mowed grass of some sort. I'll tell you that much. Let's see. Don't forget, an improved run game will keep the sticks moving and the defense off the field. Very true. Was it the running quarterbacks that killed us? I mean, usually
that is
dual threat
still,
quarterbacks. Yeah,
that is still an issue that the Chargers have to figure out. I don't care if that's with this coaching regime or previous coaching regimes. That has been an Achilles heel of the defense, and you could say that that's true for teams outside of the Chargers. But that is something that they need to be more responsible for, more disciplined against. 100%.
Pablo, Dan, just like the restaurant Arby's running backs, we have the meats. Yes. Keep that train rolling. 100%. Run game going to be ferocious. And like, again, I think Chargers fans have a lot of PTSD. Like when we talk schedule again, like we talk about like, oh, they got to go to cold weather teams late in the year, or early on in the season, they got to go up against division opponents, and I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. Like what this Chargers team is looking to build and create and impose upon other teams is not what Chargers fans are used to, right? Like, I think Chargers fans are historically used to, especially in the last 10, 20 years, aside from the LT days, it's kind of a more finesse team, right? Like an air it out. Remember Philip Rivers, Justin Herbert just like chucking it, and then you hope that they can find a way, right? Like, does that translate well in cold weather situations? No. Does it translate well on the road in hostile environments? Right? Does it translate well when you're out coached? Does it translate well when your defense is awful? So, like, let's look at the reality right now. The reality is this Chargers team is a run heavy, big offense, right? They're looking to and have the cast to physically impose their will on opponents, which translates on the road, which translates in cold weather atmospheres, in bad weather situations. They've got coaching. They have a defense. For the most part, it seems like their offensive line is pretty good. Now, again, like, I get that there's still some quote unquote holes and they could have done more, sure. But like, when you've got weapons and star-studded talent, like, you shouldn't have to have a 10 out of 10 offensive line. Like, yeah, it'd be nice. Sure, I'd love it. Would it be great? Yeah. But like a 7 or an 8, like, you should be able to rock if you got good dudes behind them. If your guys can get open, you can make dudes miss. You can truck some folks in the backfield. Like, yeah. So, like, this Chargers team is kind of built for the adversity that I think Chargers fans have PTSD about. And so that's going to be kind of an interesting storyline. How can and will this Chargers team overcome some of that PTSD?
When we had Brett Coleman on the show, what was it, the week after the Combine back in February? There's a quote that has lived in my head rent-free that he said on that show, Dan, and you remember it well. Build the floor to create the ceiling. I think collectively, we could say at multiple positions, the Chargers have done that. Is it finished? No. But I feel like you have elevated a lot of positions from a depth perspective and from a talent perspective that this team should be improved in multiple areas.
Charger Power says the guy in the white hat is so annoying, always saying the same trash. Okay, first off, it's mint green. It's not white. Okay, someone's colorblind. Second, I'm so sorry, Charger Power. But do you feel better? Do you feel better now that you got that off your chest? Like, I hope that you are feeling better about yourself, that your confidence level is higher, and you're able to move about your Sunday with a spring to your step.
He's gonna be heck, hell yeah.
I hope.
See? Yes, much better. Yes,
Good.
Much better.
I hope you do. Chargers fans like shiny things, says TD. Yeah, I kind of agree. And I would probably have put myself in that bucket for years. Yeah. You like the big ticket free agent signings. You get excited when JC Jackson signs. When they bring in, Brian Balaga. Like, you like those flashy toys.
Sorry, you brought up Brian Bulaga. I'm sorry. That stayed a shiny toy for such a short period of time.
Literally, like, what? Half a game?
That was like getting a Christmas present of like the hot new toy that year, and then it breaking in the first 5 minutes. That, yeah. I wouldn't have considered that a shiny toy, but that was good notion to go with.
Pablo says, Jack and Dan, it was so cool how Harbaugh was feeling like a kid in the candy store when he picked Mekhi Becton. Pure bliss, bros.
Remember, that was at the period of time in free agency, and I get it. But when the Chargers really hadn't made a move, and here's free agent frenzy going berserk, and everybody wondering what Joe Ortiz is doing, when he had the most cap room that the Chargers have had in the last couple of years. And it felt like there were so many people that first day that were crashing out emotionally, just waiting for the first domino to drop. And then finally, Mount Becton gets signed by the Chargers.
Takes 420. Finesse. I guess that's another word for absolutely terrible.
It feels like that is kind of the word that's kind of coincides. It's like you don't want any side of the ball to be finesse anymore. You want it to be physical.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a time when finesse was a word that was thrown around, and where it actually had
like a good
respect
thing.
on it.
It could be a good thing. It could be a good thing.
But just the way that you've watched teams like the Baltimore Ravens and the Philadelphia Eagles just build their juggernauts up, the sustained consistency of the Kansas City Chiefs winning the division for the last decade. Yeah. It's like there's elements of their game that you could say is finesse. But then when the time is right, they play physical and they win. And they've done it consistently. And you hate watching that as a Chargers fan. Sick and tired of this same fucking movie. I want to watch something else.
You sound like Charger Power. I got about 3 sips left of my latte. So I've got maybe, 5-10 minutes here left. Uber Goober Jack says someone's having a bad morning. My morning's fantastic. Catherine, it's the most depth the Chargers team has had in a very long time.
I don't think there's any argument to that.
Feels weird. Just feels weird. Aw, I'm enjoying your analysis, mint green hat guy.
Blue shirt guy. Free
Kyle
Dan
Tucker.
Wolkenstein.
Kyle Tucker. It does look kind of white in that lighting, Dan.
There you go, Dan. See, there's a little bit of...
look. White is behind me. Look at the difference.
Dan, it kind of does look a little off.
Shut up, dude. Shut up. This is an emotional support channel, apparently. Okay.
It can be when it needs to be. Just wait until we hit the regular season.
Oh, boy.
Wait to see how emotionally driven this channel is going to be during the regular season. Ooh.
Yeah. Louds are brewing. This roster is the opposite of the Telesco days. Depth with not as much big names. Prefer it this way. Yeah, we've talked about it a lot.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Aww. Who doesn't?
Christopher Johnson. You guys are my favorite Chargers podcast. Christopher Johnson, you are my favorite Christopher this morning. You are my absolute favorite. But I have to ask, what's the E symbol? There's like one E in your name, and it's very long, and it's not the start of it. I have so many questions. Now tell me what you think about Trey Harris. Will he totally take over for QJ?
Well, here's the thing about that last part of that question. I don't think that it's necessarily taking over for Quentin Johnston. I feel like this is your elevation of what you were hoping that Joshua Palmer was going to be last year. This is the expectations coming to fruition of what you thought DJ Chark was going to be last year. I don't think that this is a replacement for Quentin Johnston. Trey Harris is going to walk into that field on week 1 being part of your wide receiver 3. Mike Williams, Ladd McConkey, Trey Harris. That should be your starting wide receivers. Now, as far as Quentin goes, again, Quentin, I think, is going to be relegated, and it has been proven where he excels in his game. Now, is there an opportunity for him to still take another step in his progression this year? Yes, there is. But now with Trey Harris and essentially Mike Williams, because we were talking about the Chargers need an X receiver. Well, now you kind of have 2. You have Mike Williams, who spent so many years with Justin Herbert, already has that camaraderie. And Trey Harris, especially when you look at what he was able to do against man coverage and defense last year as a prototypical X receiver. There's so many articles that are out there right now that you could find that has Trey Harris and the Chargers being an absolute perfect pairing. And as I had mentioned to Dan, and as we have covered enough on this show, Trey Harris was one of the first wide receivers that I started watching last year before the college season began. And yes, I may be tooting my own horn for this, but this is more personal bias here that I wanted to see Trey Harris in a Chargers jersey, specifically for these reasons.
Literally over a year ago.
And when we get to week 1, I'm so excited to see what he's going to do. The fact that you have the Chargers, who even still, if you look at what their output was from their pass catchers last year, they still ran the most play action out of any team in the league, even when their running game wasn't working. Even when they only had Ladd McConkey catching the ball.
Even when defenses didn't care.
They still ran more play action than any team in the league last year. Now imagine how that play action is now going to go with Amari and Hampton and Najee Harris running the ball. And now that you have an improved core of wide receivers that are actually going to be able to get open or make those contested catches, that's going to be a huge improvement for Justin Herbert this year.
Yep. I'm pretty thrilled about this tight end class or tight end group this year. And I heard more 2 tight end sets now that Conklin is there. So maybe just Ladd and Trey for the most part. I think I'll probably be Ladd. And then I think it's going to be kind of like a by committee approach for the rest. You see Mike in there. You see Quentin for some. I think you'll see a lot of folks in there with Ladd. But the 2 tight end set thing. When's the last time the Chargers had a 2 tight end set advantage from a pass catching perspective?
Well, on paper, we felt like we were going to have that in the days of Jared Cook and Donald Parham, but that never ended up coming to fruition.
When did we actually have it? Yeah.
We felt like we were going to have it. Now you really actually feel like you might have it.
Yep.
And again, we go back to the conversation of depth, roster being built up the correct way. Tucker Fisk and Will Dissly are going to handle the blocking duties. And Aronde Gatson, who I have to give Dan just a moment of shine on this, because I know that it's probably one of his favorite pick in this entire draft. You feel like you have so much better options at the tight end spot. This is the best that you've had, even with Hunter Henry as a singularity from when he was playing with Justin Herbert. But now you've got Aronde Gatson and Tyler Conklin as good, dependable, and specifically for Gaston, contested catching options at tight end.
Chargers fans have been praying for pass catching tight ends. And they now have got 2. And tight end is a hard position to translate from college to the NFL. Well, you got one that was a receiver too, by the way. You bring in Tyler Conklin, who's been as consistent as you can hope for. I think he's had like 50 catches and whatever it is. I don't know how many yards, 4 years in a row. Like, you add those to Trey Harris, Ladd McConkey, Mike Williams, plus, along with Najee Harris, along with Omar and Hampton, along with Justin Herbert, along with Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater and Mekhi Becton. Like, this is a balanced style offense that, in my opinion, when this Chargers team goes out week 1, they can win in a multitude of ways. And they don't have to just rely on the legs of J.K. Dobbins or the health of Gus Edwards or the arm of Justin Herbert, or just pray that they can have protection, right? Like, they don't need to just pray to the gods that Ladd McConkey can go 200 yards and still get trucked in the playoffs, right? Like, there are many ways this Chargers team can go about it, right? And they're versatile. And this Chargers team, I think, for once, will kind of be able to dictate their own terms, which the Chargers team has not done, like, in years. Like, they can impose their will, which I think is why Chargers fans are very bullish on this Chargers team. They have them going 17-0. Like, I get it. But, like, I have the record as 10-7. That's my record this year for this prediction for this year for the Chargers. And if they go 10-7, this will be arguably the best Chargers team I have seen, definitely since covering the team with you, Jake, for sure. And maybe since 2018. And this team would probably be better than that team if they beat the team that they would need to get to 10 wins. Is the team worse because they only won 10 versus 11 last year? Absolutely not. And context matters. Jake, we went about hour 15. We've got almost 600 folks in the chat. This is crazy. We've gotten I love Chargers Unleashed community. It's so fun. Chargers fans are the best. You guys are so interactive. For the most part, everyone's respectful. Everyone has a great time. Do us a favor, hit the like and subscribe. Helps us out a ton. Jake, anything else that was near and dear to your heart, top of mind to you, that you'd like to pop off about before we get on out of here?
I was hoping that we were going to be able to do it this week. I know we're going to try for it next week for sure, especially with the second part of OTAs kicking off next Tuesday. But we need to talk about who's poised for a second-year breakout season, which could be a short list of people, depending on how you think about it. Who's on the bubble to make a big standout come this season? There's a handful of people that are on that list as well. But collectively, Dan, I think the way that we have seen this team constructed over the last few months, there's so much optimism for it. And optimism on a Sunday in May is a hell of a lot different than optimism on a Sunday in April, or excuse me, in November. But it's the coaching aspect, Dan, that is the biggest X factor there. I would trust Steve Clinkscale to come up with anything. Give him carte blanche. I don't care. Tell me that he's going to take a linebacker and turn him into a stud cornerback. I don't care, because I believe that he can do it. And it's been a long time since you can have that much faith in any member of the coaching staff for the Chargers.
This is true.
So because of that, because this is essentially Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman 2.0, because this is Jesse Minter and Steve Clinkscale 2.0, that helps carry the optimism that Dan opened this show with in terms of what we believe that this team collectively can do. It's not going to be an easy journey to get to the playoffs. That's for damn sure. There's going to be some disappointing losses along the way. Let's just be prepared for that. But in general, as Dan said, he had him as a 10-7 record. I had him as 11-6. I still see them being extremely more competitive. From an offensive standpoint, I don't think that you're going to be. I was going to chime in when you were saying the Chargers haven't had the opportunity to really dictate their game in recent years. It's always because the opposing defense has dictated it for them. How many times, seemingly almost in every drive, were the Chargers in a 3rd and long scenario? Even if Justin Herbert ended up converting and making a ridiculous 20-yard conversion, I don't care what it is. The Chargers need to get back to dictating the pace. And offensively, they have set the pieces in place to do that. Defensively, you have added more depth in an aggressive scheme for guys that fit Jesse Minter's scheme in terms of zone coverage, for guys that have the opportunity to elevate their game in certain positions. There's a lot of reason for optimism heading into the season. Not being bullish, not saying Super Bowl, not even going to say playoffs, because that's still a road away. But I still have him as 11-6. And I put that more from the standpoint that you got to get that taste out of Houston out of your mouth from last year. And unfortunately, you have to wait 18 weeks to do it. But whatever it is you need to do over an 18-week span to get to the playoffs and secure a playoff win for Justin Herbert, do it. Do it. I'm just excited for the journey. Let's go.
Mighty, I did not see it. I apologize, but I'm putting it up now. $1.99 donation. Thank you so much in the super chat. You think Keandre Lambert-Smith can beat out Darius Davis for returner?
Dan, I'm going to let you handle this one because you are the resident, pound the table for Darius Davis. I know how excited you were when they started inserting him more into the offense last year. I'll let you handle this one, Dan.
Do I think he could beat out Darius Davis for returner? No, I don't. I think Darius Davis was like an all-pro as a rookie. I think he's that good. He's not perfect, right? But I think he's very, very good. I think his spot is safe. I think that Luke Grimm guy, could be kind of a backup to Darius Davis on special teams as well. UDFA wide receiver. KLS, I think, is also kind of depth there. But I don't know if he's going to beat him out. At least, definitely not this year. Maybe but I don't know. I think Darius Davis. Mighty says Darius Davis isn't twitchy. I don't know, man. Darius Davis. I mean, he's got some pretty twitchy cuts, and he's also insanely fast. So, you can do it a few different ways, sure. But yeah, I don't think so. But hey, maybe. I don't know. TD says Grimm is going to make this team. Call it now. I mean, maybe this wide receiving core is so stacked. It's so deep right now. Like, I think who like 1 through 5 are with Darius in that. I think Darius, Mike Williams, Trey Harris, Ladd McConkey. Who am I missing?
KLS.
That's 4. Plus Darius is 5. Probably plus Quentin is 6. Like, I don't know who Grimm's going to beat out. Good luck. I think he's going to be a practice squad guy.
If you're just talking about Grimm possibly making the roster as beating out some other ones on this competition as far as the wide receiver room in general, yeah, I think that's possible. But let's just remember this. The 6 names that Dan just named off right now, those are pretty much guarantees, high chances to make the roster. If Darius Davis is essentially the one on the bubble, okay, that changes things. But if you're going to keep 7 wide receivers on this roster, whoever that 7th man may be, where are you going to take a roster spot away from at the other positions? That's the only thing that I ask. I'm not criticizing Luke Grimm at all because I definitely like what I've seen from him. But let's just remember that. Are you going to keep 7 wide receivers? Probably not.
No. Couple of last minute questions here, Jake, before we get out of here. Do you guys see Najee and Hampton having a 50-50 split to start? Yes. You agree?
I agree. I just would love to see who's going to end up eventually getting the bulk of the carries.
I don't know if we're going to see that. I asked that question to Daniel Poppard. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see that. I think this team wants to kind of have a split. Maybe it's 60-40, but
I definitely think it's going to be a running back by committee. You've seen so many teams do it in the league and see sustained success because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking about durability and physicality, the 2 things that Najee Harris and Amari Hampton bring to that bill, even though Amari Hampton is a much more well-rounded running back than I would say Najee Harris is, the dependability, Dan, that's there.
Mm-hmm.
The power, physicality, that's there. But I'm not going to take away Raheem Sanders somehow inserting himself into this offense. Hell no. This, I think, is, again, in the mold of what Gus Brad, I was about to say
it's
Gus
like
Bradley.
The 4th time. I'm impressed.
What the hell is wrong with me? Holy shit. I do not understand. Like, I was jumping to Greg Roman's running back room, and I was going to, Gus Edwards was in my mind because I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm going to bring up as far as the running back stable. But holy shit, maybe it's time to end this fucking stream. I think it is. What I was trying to say was this was Greg Roman's idea of what he was going to be doing with the running back stable last year. Felt it was going to be pretty healthy running back by committee. Obviously, J.K. Dobbins ended up getting a bulk of those carries, was able to be productive for a good stretch this season. But when he went down, the running game really suffered for the Chargers. Here, I don't think that you're going to have that issue. I think it's going to be exactly what Greg Roman was looking for in terms of having this stable of running backs coming into there and being able to be consistently productive and not having a drop-off.
We've reached that point, Jake. I have just 1 drip of coffee left. Did you finish yours?
No, but I need
That's
to.
Probably the issue.
No, but I need to, the way that I have talked this morning.
Christopher Johnson says the guy in the black hat is so refreshing with all the solid takes. See?
I apologize, but normally I do not make this many flubs on one fucking show. I'm actually really disappointed in myself. So if anything, I hope that I have given people a laugh on a Sunday morning and maybe something to point at to say that this guy is a fucking idiot. So if I have done that this morning, then I have done my job. But I promise I will be better next time.
TD says Jake's got early onset something.
Today it certainly felt like it.
We've come full circle. It's fantastic. Jake, you're fine. You're great. You're such a smart dude. I'm so proud of you.
That's debatable.
Go. Okay. I think that'll do it, Jake. I think we've hit the expiration date on this show because Uber Goober Jack says we're making him feel better about himself.
Yeah, it's time to power off and recharge.
Brad says, "Hey, guy in the black hat." do you remember your name today, Jake?
Guy in the black hat.
We need to put that on a t-shirt. Here we go.
Yeah, guy in the black hat.
Uber Goober Jack. I'm not the most stupid in the world.
See, I have done my job today, and I feel good about it.
Second to last.
Yeah, if there's one thing that I could bring to people on a Sunday morning in May, it is May, right? No, I'm just playing. Yes, if there's one thing I can bring to people on a Sunday morning in May, it's laughter. Then I'm doing what I need to do.
Yep. James Wagner, friend of the show. Sorry, late guys. God bless you guys. Both up. TD ends it with, "This was such a late May stream."
Way late. Way late.
Brad Smicoli, right on. Great show. Bolt TFU.
If we're not laughing at ourselves, what the fuck else can we laugh at?
Yeah, see? Look. We could care less how stupid we look. That's kind of what makes this thing fun.
I mean, I kind of do because...
No, you don't.
Yeah, fuck it. I don't want to. I mean, it's kind of like that old adage, like, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you type thing.
You're wearing a hoodie with no sleeves. Come on now.
What do you mean? There's sleeves on this bitch. I'm not Bill Belichick. What are you talking about?
You're wearing a short sleeve hoodie.
What does that have to do with anything?
Inside what? So many. All right, we're off the rails here.
Good Lord, man.
Look. This has been fun. Appreciate everybody for tuning in.
I can insult myself on my own intelligence, but now you're just taking a shot at my wardrobe? No. Sunday morning in May, Dan.
Jake can't decide if it's raining or sunny outside.
Fuck. California.
Here we go. For Jake, you can find him at Jake T. Hefner, myself at Dan W. Sports. Jake, you might find in a sale asylum because he can't decide what his name is for the day. You ain't fat, black hat. I don't even know what this means.
Thankfully, the camera's only getting me from here up.
Might as well be sleeveless. Look, I'm just going to let these comments roll. This is amazing.
This is how we're ending the show today. This is how we're having some fun.
Yeah,
at Jake Hefner's expense. Yeah. All you should be doing, Dan, is just letting me keep talking for the rest of the show. Some point, I'm going to fuck up. Jake, and then there'll just be another comment.
Okay, last question.
For everybody to go off on.
Last question for you. What's the weather?
Well, according to Dan, it shouldn't be short sleeve hoodie weather.
What is short sleeve hoodie weather? Please enlighten us.
Man, I wake up early at 5:30 in the morning. All right, when I leave the fucking house, it's 63 degrees out. Okay. Depending on who I'm talking to, if you're on the East Coast, you're probably saying to yourself, "Oh, California guy, talking about 63 degrees being cold." Look, the fact that this turned into a wardrobe critique for Jake Hefner is insane. Not to say that it's not fun, but how the hell did we get here?
Oh, it's great. Oh, thank you. Oh man. Okay.
I'm gonna now intentionally wear some really ridiculous shit on the show.
Now you're going to.
Yeah, and then you're gonna be
not
saying
before,
Jake,
but right now.
Yeah, and then you're gonna be saying, Jake, you need to go back to the short sleeve black.
Who's this guy?
Yeah.
Oh man, change Jake's name to Son Haskins.
Hey, I will take the L on that one all day fucking long.
Oh, apparently it looks like I'm eating edibles or something. Because I'm having way too much fun here.
Yeah, you got the gigs now.
Just so you know, Will Ferrell comes in. It's 64 in San Diego right now. Jake, I'm just going to call you Anchorman from now on. Oh, man. All right. Well,
I definitely will read whatever the teleprompter gives me. So by all means, Dan, put some bullshit up in front of me that I can read off.
Okay, read that one.
Like an ass.
Read that one.
Love you, Dan and Jake. Great show.
Okay. And then last one.
I got that one right.
Last one.
Hope he can think better throughout the day. I hope he wasn't on live television. I wasn't, but I understand why you think I would be.
Okay, actually, no, we got two more. Here's one more.
We all know what this means.
Chargers Island. We love you, Jake. We just need to laugh. See?
Like I said, if I can give you all that, even my own expense of sounding like an idiot, I'm happy to do that.
Call him Mitch McConnell.
Let's. That one's good. That one's good. You know, maybe I'm just going to start doing this now. Maybe I'll start replacing all Chargers names with like the skit from Key and Peele with all the makeup football names.
Ladarius nice there.
Yeah, I've said these names before. Hinkle McCringleberry, X at wing or at X-wing aliciousness, whatever it is. Yes, I'm going to start just calling them that.
TD with a $20 donation. Thank you so much. TD with another $20 take. Apparently, the stupider we get, the more people enjoy this show. Oh, okay. All right. I think you should probably
really need to dial back my approach on this show right now.
You guys are amazing. Love you guys sincerely. LOL. James, you're the best. Jake, it's been fun. Honestly, my tear ducts are now dry.
I'm glad it was fun for all of you. I'm glad you all had a great time.
Yes. That's what
I'm happy to provide it this morning. Congratulations.
All right, Jake, what are you cooking on the smoker for Memorial Day? Anything fun?
Actually, yesterday did some Wagyu steak.
Oh,
it was for father-in-law's birthday. It was very nice. So it was good eating at the Hefner household yesterday.
Now, were you stressing as you're cooking that thing? Like, I better not F this up.
No.
Would be.
No.
Oh, good for you. Good. Okay. Well, it sounds like folks were entertained on this episode. Good. I certainly was.
Good. Wouldn't want you coming into a boring podcast, even if it means that the football takes are proper, but someone just has an off day and can't remember a goddamn name to save his life.
Or dress himself appropriately.
Who wants to hear, run-of-the-mill
normal names?
Good football takes. Who wants to hear smart people anymore?
Certainly not the Chargers guy. He doesn't like the guy in the white hat, but the black hat has fresh takes, and that's what matters. That is what matters on a Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning. Hell. Well, wife just brought in breakfast.
Hey, you got one Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning. All right, we're on the board.
Shout out Maroon 5. If you have not done so already, please hit that like and subscribe. Helps us out a ton. Otherwise, find Jake laughing somewhere with a short sleeve hoodie. Find myself with my stupid takes and a white hat that doesn't exist. And we'll talk to you next time. Again, happy Memorial Day weekend. Thank you to all who serve and have served. We will talk to you next time on Chargers Unleashed.